Ayun, naka-stream na tayo.
Ay! Magandang gabi ho sa inyo lahat. At kami ay nagkaroon ng maliit na technical difficulty pero naayos din ang ating magaling na technical director, si Tito Aldo. Bumati ka muna pre, trademark mo.
Ayun, magandang umaga sa inyo lahat. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Dito sa Winnipeg. Happy Independence Day, Kuya Noel.
Ay! 1, 2, 3, 123rd Independence Day ng Bayang Pilipinas. So, maligayang araw ng kalayaan sa ating lahat ng mga Pilipino naman sa Pilipinas at sa lahat ng mga Pilipino sa buong mundo, lalong-lalo na ang mga Pilipino dito sa Winnipeg, Canada. Bago tayo magsimula,
yes po. Sige.
Ito ay lagi na natin gagawin. Ito ay pagkilala sa ating mga katutubo at pagkilala rin sa lupa na ating kung saan tayo ngayon ay naninirahan. Ito yung tinatawag na land acknowledgement. Marami sa inyo siguro ang aware dito. Kapag nagpupulong ang mga public officials, they always recognize or they always say the land acknowledgement. Sisimulan po natin. Ito parang panalangin natin bago tayo magsimula. At let me do the honors, Tito Aldus.
Ayan, sige Kuya Noel.
We acknowledge that we are gathered on ancestral lands on Treaty 1 territory. These lands are the heartland of the Métis people. We acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. Kinikilala po namin na natitipon tayo ngayon or kami ngayon sa mga lupain ng mga ninuno sa teritoryo ng Treaty 1. Ang mga lupaing ito ay sentro ng mga katutubong Métis. Kinikilala namin ang aming tubig ay nagmula sa Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. Alright. So, anong pag-uusapan natin ngayon, Tito Aldus?
Mainit na topic, Kuya Noel. At regarding sa housing ito, Kuya Noel, ano?
Oo. So, ditong week na to, dahil nakafocus tayo sa City of Winnipeg lagi, ano? Ito nga, ang show nga natin ay tinatawag na City of Peg Watch, the Kuya Noel and Tito Aldo Show. So, inaantabayanan po natin or talagang sinubaybayan natin last week ang committee hearing ng City of Winnipeg na siya pong in charge dun sa pagbabalangkas ng Infill housing guidelines. So nakausap po natin si Councilor Janice ng Waverly at pinaliwanag niya po dito yung kung bakit tayo kailangang magkaroon ng Infill housing guidelines. Pero bago natin talakayin yung Infill housing guidelines, siguro in as much as we can, base dun sa information at knowledge na meron tayo, Tito Aldous, pag-usapan natin, ano ba yung infill housing? At bakit ito advantageous sa city at advantageous sa mga may-ari ng lupa at advantageous din or beneficial din sa mga balak bumili ng bagong bahay. Simulan natin dun sa ano ba yung infill housing?
Oo nga.
Yung infill housing po, infill, di ba? Ibig sabihin, siningit. Infill. Kumbaga, may mga sa isang block, neighborhood block. Kung makikita kayo, lalo na ngayong summer, marami mga developments, housing developments, na yung mga mature communities na tinatawag, yung mga halimbawa sa North End, Osborne, dyan sa Daniel McIntyre, Point Douglas Ward, yung mga old communities, marami yung mga lumang bahay, pre. Tapos niyan, ang kadalasan niya, nung araw kasi, ang lalaki ng lupa. No, yung isang bahay na yon, nakatirik, isang maliit na bahay, tapos ang laki ng lupa niya. Ngayon, may vision ng ang city na magkaroon ng population density kung saan ang development ay hindi palapad, kundi ang development ay dapat maging nakasentro sa lugar mismo na existing na yung neighborhood. So, beneficial to sa city dahil halimbawa kasi pagka ang development ay papalawak, sprawling kung tawagin, magastos 'to. Dahil halimbawa kung magtatayo tayo ng mga bagong communities sa mga bakanteng lupa, wala pa talaga mga damuhan, ang tendency magkakaroon ng expenses ang city government sa unang-una, katulad ng tubig, linya ng
Mhm.
tubig, collection ng basura, at at kung ano-ano pa mga services. Whereas kung nade-develop mo mismo ay yung mga existing neighborhoods and communities, andun na existing na yung mga services doon. Andun na yung taghahakot ng basura, nandun yung mga iba't ibang services ng water and sewage, etc., etc. Ngayon, ang advantage din ito sa mga naghahanap ng mga bagong bahay.
Yeah.
Dahil, halimbawa, bibili ka ng bagong bahay sa isang new developed subdivision. Di ba? Wala pa talaga. Kayo first time na bubuo ng community na yun, napakamahal nun, Tito Aldous.
Yeah.
Napakamahal nun dahil bagong development nyo, bagong bahay,
Bagong planning, bagong
bagong
zoning.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
bagong plano, etc. etc. Kadalasan nga wala pang puno eh. Puro
Yeah.
alikabok ang sasalubong sa inyo. So, napakamahal nun. Merong isang option na pwede kang magkaroon ng bagong bahay, Tito Aldous, brand new,
Paano yan, Kuya Noel?
sa isang mature community. Dahil yung mga malalaking lote,
Mhm.
di ba, property owner ako na matagal na ako sa Winnipeg. Pa-retire na ako, Tito Aldous, kung kumbaga, ang laki ng lote ko. Yung lote ko, pwedeng magkaroon ng 2 bahay. So, ang gagawin ko ngayon, maaari kong ibenta yung kalahati, mag-a-apply ako sa City of Winnipeg para ma-split, magkaroon ng rezoning
Mhm.
yung aking property at pwedeng magtayo ng bagong bahay doon sa kabila kong property. So, yung tinatawag na mga infill housing. Katulad nung, ito, nakatira ako ngayon sa Arrow Street, di ba? Last year kami lumipat dito. Ito ay infill housing din. Dahil ito, yung tinitira namin ngayon, ay isang bahagi ito ng isang malaking lote. Ngayon, hinati, nagtayo ng bago. Kaya meron akong bagong bahay, pero hindi ganun kamahalan compared dun sa mga bagong subdivisions. So, summer ngayon, putok na putok ang mga bentahan ng mga bilihan ng mga properties, di ba? Ito isa sa mga options na pwedeng gawin ng mga kababayan natin, lalo na yung mga, of course, mga Filipino communities na gustong bumili na ng bagong bahay o ito yung talagang dream nila na bago. Hindi lang yung bibili talaga ng existing na bahay na ito, bago talaga. Kayo magdi-design, kayo ang makikipag-usap sa builders nyo, sa developers nyo, kung ano itsura na magiging bahay nyo. Na hindi gaanong kamahalan dahil ito ay within the existing community. Existing na yung kumbaga isiningit lang siya. At dito nga sa Arrow Street, dito sa Tyndall, dito Aldous, at present, currently, dito sa block namin, meron na namin ginagawa, 2 units.
Nakita ko nga yun eh.
2 units. Bagong bahay. So, doon, pagka pumunta ka doon sa gawin ng Selkirk corner ng Arrow, yung first 3 houses doon, na yun, infill housing na yun. Kumbaga mga bagong gawang bahay na yun sa old community. Tapos madadagdagan naman ng 2. So, ganun po. Ganun yung ibig nating ipaliwanag sa inyo na isang option ito sa inyong mga nagbabalak na magplano na bumili ng bago yung bahay na hindi kamahalan at the same time, accessible sa lahat. Kasi, pagka ikaw ay nasa bagong development, syempre wala pa dyan ang mga amenities, di ba? Dahil bago nga yun malayo sa kung ano-ano. Ito, nandito na ang bus stop, existing na ang mga commercial areas, existing na ang lahat, di ba? Pati mga serbisyo ng city ay nandito na. However, meron ding mga resistance din, Tito Aldous. Yung mga resistance yan, yung mga iba, yung mga iba, syempre hindi mawawala yan Yung mga ibang mga neighborhoods, medyo naiinis sila dahil yung mga tinatayong mga bagong bahay ngayon, ang tatayog, ang tataas.
Taas kasi
Ito sa akin talagang mataas
patasan
to,
sila
di
eh.
ba? Ngayon, ang reklamo dyan, yung unang-una, walang consultation dun sa neighborhood. Nakikita lang nila, may darating na bulldozer. Ano ba yung ginagawa dyan? In-split na pala yung lupa ni Mang Tasyo. Wala man ng consultation sa community. Pangalawa, yung height.
Yes.
Dati, yung existing ngayon, actually, hindi pa nara-ratify yung new guidelines talaga. Kahit gaanong katayog yung bahay, pwede. Ngayon, dito sa ginawa nila Councilor Janice Lux, merong pagbabatayan ang mga builders kung gaano talaga kataas ang dapat maging mga bagong developments. So, marami pang iba yan. Pati yung mga pavements, inayos nila. Dahil currently, may existing na sinusunod na patakaran ang infill housing pero hindi ganun kadetalyado. So, nagsama-sama yung mga stakeholders, kasama ang mga developers and builders, mga councilors natin, pinag-aralan nila na kailangan nating ayusin to dahil maraming nangyayari ngayon na developments within the mature neighborhoods at dapat meron tayong certain guidelines na sinusunod para naman para merong standard.
Yeah.
'Di ba? Napaka-importante niyan eh. Pero ito po ang dapat niyong malaman mga kaibigan, mga nakikinig sa atin, mga suki natin. This is something that you would like to consider in buying your new homes, 'di ba? Pagka nga nakakatuwa pagka nagde-deliver ako dito, nakakatuwa yung mga old communities, yung mga North End. Dati diyan kitang-kita mo mga sira-sira na bahay, 'di ba? Mga iniwan na, inabandon. After a few months makikita mo yung mga bagong bahay ang gaganda.
Yeah.
Sa taas, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Ngayon, nare-revive ngayon yung community. 'Di ba? Yung pangit na itsura dati dahil wala nang nakatira, tapos napabayaan na. Ito may mga bagong pamilya dito na titira. Bagong community, bagong face ng community natin. Kaya napakaganda pang programa ito. Kaya at alam din 'yan ng mga real mga realtors.
Yes.
Realtors. Magtanong kayo sa mga realtors nyo kung sino. Wala tayong particular na pinopromote dito. Lahat ng mga realtors niya, alam po niya sigurado ang mga options na pwede nyong bilhin na infill housing. Yung baga, halimbawa, dyan sa inyong area na, Lansdowne, sigurado, o sa Robertson area, pwede kayo. Hindi maaaring mawalan ng hindi maaaring hindi kayo makakita ng bagong bahay within old communities dahil laging meron. At ang gaganda niyan, Tito Aldous, yung mga bagong designs ngayon.
Maganda eh. Gaya yung bahay mo. Maganda yung pagka-design ng bahay mo ng infill housing.
Mga infill housing. Di ba? Nakaabangan nyo yan. Marami pang mga siguro i-introduce na mga modern homes, yung mga green homes, magamit ng mga solar power. Hindi natin alam, di ba? Kasi nag-i-evolve, nag-i-improve ang housing development dito sa Manitoba. So, makikita natin, alam ko, nakapost na po sa aming page yung ating interview kay Councilor Janice Lux. Pero pakinggan nyo pa rin, ipe-play natin ngayon. At sana makapulot kayo ng mga magandang information tungkol dito. Pero bago natin i-play yan, Tito Aldous, pasalamatan natin yung ating mga taga-suporta natin sa City of Winnipeg, mga sponsor at saka sa province of Manitoba.
Ayun, si Councilor Kevin Klein. Thank you so much for the support. Councilor, MLA Cindy Lamoureux as well for Tyndall Park. There you go. Kevin Klein, City Councilor for Transcona, Winnipeg, right?
City Councilor for sa
Charleswood.
Yun. Yeah. No, Charles is Marcos Chambers. Mamaya, makikita nila habang nakapost niyan kung saan ang ating kaibigan si Councilor Kevin Klein.
Yeah, Councilor Kevin Klein for a better Winnipeg and Cindy Lamoureux, MLA for Tyndall Park.
Okay.
So, bakit po kaming meron ganitong ads ngayon, Kuya Noel? Nagtataka sila. So dito po, we are in, ano po yung sinasabi natin dito, Kuya Noel? For public service as well. So
Mhm.
if you want to post your posters or yung mga gusto nyong mga good deeds po ninyo, the show
Yun.
is open for us. And if you want some issues to be discussed as well, and the show is open for you as well to point your stand on a certain issue.
Mhm. Mm. Yun tama yun 'no, kasi tayo ay, ang focus po natin ay yung mga nangyayari sa City of Winnipeg and the Province of Manitoba. Lagi nating katrabaho dito yung mga public servants natin. Kaya sila rin yung unang-unang, sumusuporta sa atin in terms of their advertisement. So, however, kahit hindi kayo politiko, puwede naman kayong tumulong din sa amin sa pamamagitan ng inyong mga advertisement at tulungan tayo. Halimbawa, may negosyo kayo, pwede nyo i-advertise dito sa The Kuya Noel and Tito Aldo Show. Tapos, iliwanagin lang natin, si Kevin Klein po ay ang ating counselor for Charleswood, Tuxedo, Westwood. Ayan, tama ka pala, Tito Aldous.
Ayun.
Kevin Klein is our counselor for Charleswood, Tuxedo, and Westwood Ward. So, he is one of our supporters. Thank you very much, Counselor Kevin Klein. At ngayon po, papalabas na natin yung ating interview with Counselor Janice Lux ng Waverly Ward, wherein we discuss the advantages of the new guidelines. Ito po ay naaprobahan pa lang sa committee level. Ang next step po nito, ito po ay pupunta sa EPC, Executive Policy Committee ng Council para aprobahan pa rin. After that, ng EPC, ito po ay aakit na sa City Council for final approval para magkakaroon na po tayo, ang City of Winnipeg, ng new guidelines in terms of implementing infill housing dito sa City of Winnipeg. I-share ko na po ang ating interview sa ating kaibigan na si Counselor Janice Lux. Ito na po.
We'll talk about the infill housing guidelines, which I actually live in. I live in Tyndall Park area. Mm-hmm. I bought this new home last year. I used to live in the same neighborhood, but I saw this new development here, but an old neighborhood with new building. Mm-hmm. So I would consider myself and my family as a beneficiary of this infill housing program. And I was following, of course, the civic, issues and programs, specifically last week or a couple of days ago, wherein you had that committee hearing. Mm-hmm. And one of the issues was the approval or the passing of the new guidelines for infill housing. Correct. Now, you voted in favor of the new guidelines for infill housing. Now, for the benefit of our audience, can you give us some highlights of the new guidelines? Like, for example, the numbers of allowed units per block, the height requirements, etc. And what do we need to know, Counselor?
Sure. So I'll give you a highlights, like a high-level overview versus getting into the weeds, right? Because I don't think most of your audience are infill developers or builders, right? So the reason why we need to have an infill guide is to guide the development of infill properties. The city of Winnipeg is growing. We've been growing. We're a slow growth city, but when you take the fact that we're a slow growth city into consideration, we've actually been growing fairly rapidly over the past 6 to 10 years. I represent the ward of Waverly West, which is in southwest Winnipeg. Just for an example, in the past 4 years, since the 2016 census, that the neighborhoods that I represent have grown by 11,000 people in 4 years. That is the fastest growth on record for the city of Winnipeg for any area. So Winnipeg and Canada are very desirable places for people in the world to come to. Mm-hmm. The reason we're growing is through immigration. We've got a great provincial nominee program. We've got a great universities. People want to have their kids educated. They send their kids to come to Winnipeg. Many of the kids stay. Many of the kids, they bring their families. Many professional people come from around the world and they want to come to Winnipeg for a quality of life, right? I mean, I've been fortunate. I've not made it to the Philippines. I've been close, but I didn't get there. But, you go to, if you look at our population base, we have many people from the Philippines, many from Punjab, from India. We have many from Nigeria and China, and also Pakistan and Bangladesh. So we're a very desirable city because we're affordable, right? We're not Toronto, we're not Vancouver, we're affordable because cost of living is lower here. So all these people are coming, and that's great. This is all pre-pandemic. Things have slowed down a bit because of the pandemic. But all these people are coming and they need to live somewhere. And not everyone wants to live on the outskirts of the city. Lots of people want to live maybe downtown. They want to live St. Patel, Tyndall Park. And they want something that's affordable. So infill housing is affordable housing. It's usually smaller sized houses or duplexes or townhomes on smaller sized lots. Many people that come from around the world don't live in a house, right? They live in apartments. So in order to keep things affordable, we need to look at how we can improve our number of infill units. So there's a lot of old housing stock in the city of Winnipeg. Winnipeg's an old city. So there's a lot of older homes that are time to be renewed. And what cities are looking at is how can we, instead of having one house on this lot where we've already got streets, we've already got bus service, we already got shopping, how can we densify? So the city looks at lot splits. They split a lot into a smaller size and they put two houses on it, or they put a duplex on it, or two houses with a secondary suite or a granny suite. So there's different options. But we've really had no guidelines, like how big should it be? What should it look like? How wide should it be? How much land should be left for yards and how much space should be left for parking? All of these things are relevant to building a house and having services for the people that live in the house. So the city has tried for about 10 years to develop guidelines. And infill can be a very contentious issue because it means change for a neighborhood. Some people want change, some people don't. Some people have lived in the neighborhood 30 years and they don't want to see a whole bunch of construction come, and they don't want to see a bunch of new houses show up, and they don't want to see more people show up. Infill is a very difficult project. It's got its challenges, and we had no guidelines. So what we passed at this one committee was a set of guidelines. The city went away, the staff went away for a year. They talked to all kinds of people. They talked to developers. They talked to environmentalists. They talked to planners. And they said, what can we do for a first step for the city of Winnipeg to get guidelines? So they came forward with these guidelines. Mm-hmm. And they're not perfect, but you know what? We don't have anything. It's a very good start. So I supported the guidelines. And now, along with my two other members on the committee, and now Councillor Santos, I think probably many of you know Councillor Santos and Councillor Gilroy, right? Mm-hmm. Not Councillor Klein. He didn't support them. Anyways, now they go to the mayor and his executive policy committee.
Which is the EPC, right?
EPC, exactly. Mm-hmm. So they go to EPC now, and at EPC, they're going to decide. We gave them recommendations. We said basically support this, except for a couple little things. We made a couple little changes, and we sent it up to EPC. And next week, they will vote on it. And I'm hoping that they will support it. Mm-hmm. Some councillors may not support it because, there's 101 reasons a person can think of for not supporting it. Some councillors have a lot of infill in their neighborhoods, and it's very difficult to constantly be working with residents to help them understand why our city needs to densify. Our city needs to densify because, like, you look around, right? Just look around. I was in Ho Chi Minh City for 2 weeks one time, came home, and I couldn't believe the amount of space we had in downtown, right? And I think I can, if you look at Manila, you look at some big cities, right? We can become more dense, and we need to do that because it's very expensive to continue building out and maintaining. Sending snowplows, sending the dump trucks, the garbage trucks. It costs a lot of money if you've got a big footprint versus a smaller footprint to take care of, right? So we have the opportunity, like you mentioned, where you live was empty space in an older neighborhood. There are these pockets of empty spaces, or there's older homes that this infill can occur. And this is why I really strongly believe that we need to proceed this way. And some councillors aren't happy about infill because it presents a lot of challenge and they may not support it, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Councillor, I would like to, this is not too specific, but I would like to know if there would be some restrictions or if there will be numbers of allowable units per block. Because right now, where I live on Arrow Street, there is an ongoing construction now of 2 houses.
Right.
So I know that there's an existing guidelines. It will not be covered by the new guidelines, but are we expecting like restrictions of number of units to be built in a block?
Well, one of the recommendations that was added was before it came to our committee, one of the recommendations said, that there only be 2 constructions occurring per block per year. Not the number, but the time frame, because there's lots of action when there's constructions, right? There's cement trucks, there's window guys, there's door guys, there's all kinds of stuff coming and going. So one of the restrictions that was asked for was like only have 2 a year per block.
Okay.
And we took that out because right now, for example, in Osborne Village, there's 3 or 4 that are occurring on a block this summer. We really need to try and make it easy to have infill occur because it's hard to begin with. In my ward, in the Waverly West ward, there's a lot of construction and people are used to the construction. But in areas of the city where there's not a lot of construction, people aren't used to it, so they get upset about it. But we have to try and make it easier to have infill happen because it's hard to do to begin with. Otherwise, all we're going to do is keep building out all the way past the perimeter. And we can't afford to do that in the big picture, right?
Exactly. Now, on community consultation, Councillor, in these new guidelines, are developers or builders required to talk to or consult with the residents of the neighborhood before they dig or start?
Yeah, absolutely. They're supposed to do it before, and they're supposed to do it going forward. Absolutely, to consult with the neighbors. We've got another motion that's going to even be more specific in that they must provide the name of the project manager, the phone number, so that the neighbors have this information. If one of the subcontractors comes and let's say, I don't know, takes a fence down and doesn't put it up, the builder, the actual owner may have agreed to tell everyone this, but the subcontractor didn't. And then that's a drama that the fence is left down that, residents need a phone number of someone to always contact. So in anything, any developer should be consulting.
Mm-hmm. Now, in one of your interviews, and also you mentioned earlier, you acknowledge that these guidelines are not perfect.
Yeah.
So what are not so perfect? Can you be more specific on this?
Yeah, well, if I take a look at what, say, Edmonton did, in the city of Winnipeg, we gave our city staff $30,000 to go out and develop guidelines. Edmonton, I think it was over 400,000. So this is sort of a first step in this development of guidelines. We don't have bylaws attached to it yet. So these are just guidelines. You know, it's like I'm getting the Chevette versus the Cadillac or the whatever, the Audi, right? You know, so it's a start. When you have nothing, you got to start somewhere, and it's a good start. And the good thing is, we will use these guidelines for a year, and we will see how we can make it better, right? We can refine them. So before we get bylaws written that make it mandatory, that make things absolutely mandatory, always things can be appealed. These are guidelines. So Winnipeg it takes a little longer, I think, in Winnipeg sometimes to make things happen. And, you know, so I'm hoping this gets passed, but we'll see.
Now, I live in north end part of the city. As residents of North End or Northwest, where we have some areas are considered mature neighborhoods, right?
Yes.
What do we expect from these new guidelines if approved by the EPC and the council? Are we foreseeing a new look of North End and other mature neighborhoods in the near future? What do you see? What's your vision on this, council?
Yeah. I think the good thing about the guidelines is it will really help residents know what to expect. There is a certain style or a design of house that they can expect. They can know that they will only be 28 feet high. They will know that there will be 4 feet, I think it's 4 feet of lawn on each side. There will be definite things they will know that will be incorporated. Before, it was very up in the air.
Mm-hmm. Now, last question, Councillor, before I let you go. I know you explained it earlier, the first statement that you made. So that our audience or Filipino audience would better understand, what are we actually gaining from infill housing? In simple words.
We're saving the taxpayers money.
Why do you say that?
Because if we keep building our city bigger and wider and wider and wider, we're going to have to pay more to buy more snow plows, to pay for more garbage trucks, to do more road maintenance. Whereas if we build our city on a smaller footprint, you know, we won't have to spend that amount of money. And this is over time, right? Things happen over time. But by filling in and densifying a city, you're saving the taxpayers money in the long run because they're not have to spend more and more and more. And here's a perfect example. If we were to take the brand new 25,000 people that moved into Waverly West, way in southwest Winnipeg, if we had planted them all downtown, would we need to spend all that money on maintaining the roads, a $20 million fire hall, a $90 million community center, right? Not everyone wants to live downtown and in apartments. We have to, as a city, provide choice, but we really need to do a better job of filling in our city so that we can use the existing resources. You know, if a garbage truck's going down the street and they pick up from 5 houses versus 2 houses, they're going down the same street. They're going by it anyways. It increases the tax base also, right? It increases our tax base. So in the long run, it ultimately saves the taxpayer money by having a denser city.
Perfect.
Ayun, mga kaibigan.
Ayun,
So,
nakikinig
malinaw
tayo.
yun, no? Parang siyang professor, no? Magaling
Kaya nga.
mag-explain si Councilor Janice Lux. Nakamute ka, Tito Aldous.
Hindi po. Ayan, sorry po.
Nakamute ka ng
Tayo.
Ayan, nakamute ka, sir.
Ayan, yan po.
Ayun. So, pinaliwanag niya, in summary, it's all about densifying the community. Sabihin, ang development ay within a smaller footprint. Dahil bakit sa smaller footprint, mas makakatipid tayo. Pagka nakatipid ang gobyerno, ibig sabihin, nakapag-save in the long run, natutulungan din yung mga taong bayan. Dahil hindi tayo gumagastos sa hindi tayo nagbabayad ng malaking taxes.
Point
Kagano
siya.
nangyayari. So, at ang isa pang advantage nito, inabaliwanag natin kanina, mas mura ang infill housing compared dun sa mga new developments in new subdivisions and communities. Ayun.
May
So,
nag-comment
abangan niya.
dito, Kuya Nabel,
Sino?
yung ating kagalang-galang na Filipino realtor, si Madam Charmaine Hernandez, yung ating top caliber.
Okay.
Ang sabi niya, cheaper way to own a brand new house, especially to immigrants like us. Yan po yung sabi ni Charmaine Hernandez.
And we have a comment here from Meryl Hodgson as well. Where are the corresponding upgrades to infrastructure in Glenwood to support all the new infill? Oh, this is actually a question. So the best person to ask would be Councilor Janice. You can reach out to her. I understand that there were some issues in Glenwood community regarding those infill housing. And I understand that's the reason why these guidelines were being enacted or introduced to the council, because there are no existing guidelines right now. And this, as Councilor Janice explained earlier, this is not a perfect guideline, but this is a step towards having something. And as far as I know, this will take effect for 1 year, and it will be reviewed again. If changes are needed, then it's open for changes and amendments. And also, just to clarify, this guidelines is not a bylaw. It can be a reference in the future in the creation of bylaw, but this is a step. This is just guidelines for the developers in creating or building infill housing. So, yeah, thank you very much for that question, Meryl Hudson. And we apologize. This show is for all of us. However, we talk in our language as well, in Tagalog, for the better understanding of the Filipino-Canadian residents in Winnipeg and the whole of Manitoba. All right, so binanggit ni Charmaine Hernandez kanina, no? Gusto ko lang i-emphasize yun. It's a cheaper way to own a brand new house, especially to immigrants like us. Less property tax. Exactly.
Yeah.
Less property tax. Kasi ito, ang tatandaan natin, ang mortgage na binabayaran, matatapos yan, Tito Aldous.
Yes, sir.
Ang walang katapusan, property tax.
Is the property tax.
Yeah, it's never ending. Di ba? Kasi tax yan eh. Matatapos ang mortgage natin, wala na tayong babayaran. Ang titulo nasa pangalan na natin. Di ba? Pero ang property tax, forever yan, binabayaran natin. Kung nakartira tayo dun sa mga kung malaki kita natin okay lang. Pero kung gusto natin makatipid, doon tayo sa communities na lesser ang property tax.
I got a question for Charmaine, if she's watching. She can comment as well. What is the basis? What is the basis for computation for property tax? Let's say po may old neighborhood, naglagay ka ng bagong bahay na brand new. Tataas ba ang property tax natin? Kaya Noel, sa
magandang tanong yan,
di ba?
Oo. Siguro minsan i-invite natin dito yung mga realtors natin as a follow-up on this conversation, because this is a very good conversation. Hindi lang dun sa guidelines na inaabangan natin that we are following in the EPC level until the council approval. After that approval, what do we expect, right? Because there will be restrictions on how many units are allowed to be built in a certain year in a certain block.
Yeah.
Hindi yung ang dami-daming talagang ginagawang bahay.
Sabay-sabay.
It's annoying sabay-sabay, di ba? It's annoying to the neighborhood. Ito, nilimitahan. Even the heights, meron ng requirements. Gano. Tapos yung mga pavement, yung mga spaces in between each houses. So maganda
Okay.
yan. Siguro invite natin yung mga ating mga kaibigan, mga realtors.
Mhm.
Kung ano yung ano nila, kung ano yung what are their takes on the proposed new guidelines for infill housing.
Yeah. Shermin has a comment here. Not so much kasi developed na yung area.
Ayun.
Okay. So, kasi po, sa ating experience po, if you put an addition on your house, down the road, tataas po yung property tax po natin eh. Tama po ba, Madam Charmaine? Or, di ba, kung naglagay ka ng sunroom, lagay ka ng bagong kitchen, naglagay ka ng bagong addition sa bahay mo,
Yeah.
magugulat ka na lang, wow, ang taas naman ng property tax ko.
Yeah.
At
Kasi
you have,
kasi
you have to declare
bagong
everything,
improvement
right?
yun eh. As far as ganun nga yan.
Yeah.
So, yun po, magandang usapin to. Patuloy nating susubaybayan to sa City Council. And however, as far as we know, as mentioned also by Councilor Janice Lux, Councilor Kevin Klein did not approve the passing of these new guidelines in the committee level. So, for sure he has his own reasons of his disagreement towards the new guidelines, and he would like to hear about the other side of the coin coming from Councilor Kevin Klein. So we'll be inviting Councilor Kevin Klein as well to hear his side of the story about the infill housing guidelines. So, tinitimbang natin, syempre, that's democracy. Would like to know each other's ideas and stand on different issues. Okay.
There you go. That's a nice topic too.
Ayos. Ang ganda ng topic natin. Kung gusto, if you are watching this live right now, this will be on our page, of course. And if you would like to share this, this is a very good information. Very informative, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you who are, especially for those new immigrants who are planning to buy new houses. So this is a better option, or a good option for you guys that you might consider before purchasing your dream home here in City of Winnipeg. Ayun! Ayos!
And of course, yeah, talk to your realtor, the best realtor.
Ayun!
Yeah.
Alam na this.
Alam na this.
Oo, kung sino yung mga ano yan. Alright.
Okay. So
magitan po ng ating talakayan ngayong gabing ito, kami po ay nagpapasalamat. Thank you very much for watching. And we will see you again next week for another topic here at the City of Pegwatch, the Kuya Noel, and
Tito Aldo Show.
Mabuhay. Happy Independence Day
Happy
po.
Independence Day, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.